another episode of Vigor Warriors 2 and the 1% Club. Welcome, Warriors. Welcome to another great meeting of the Warriors, and it's continued to grow as we go along. Thank you guys for all your subscriptions, comments, likes, donations, all those things. It's greatly appreciated. We're going to continue to do things that my goals of this summer. Try to do a streaming one if we can. Also, as I just did, demonstrating the exercises of Kelder's Fountain of Youth. Excellent type of thing. It kind of goes into the topic we're going to focus on today a little bit, and continue doing the things that we're doing. So I'm going to go through another list of shout-outs real fast here, and then we're going to have some new ones because I've got a new bunch of them over the last week or so. Which reminds me, Claude was talking about the rotation, and we'll talk about that in a second. I think I had another person asking about anger when it comes to retention, and we're going to talk about those things as well. So HVD, 11 months, keep it going, my friend. Fresh start. Haltestelle, 7 Reborned, thank you. Brahminyogi, thank you. Micio Cruz, great observation you're making, my friend. I appreciate that. NAR 1992, right. Semen retention in moderation. Of course, everything's in moderation, but certainly you don't want to get too angry, and your emotional tilt going back and forth. But your body's got to adjust to the new system that you're trying and doing. So, Jimy Great, 4 years. Congratulations. Keep it going, my friend. Alvin, elevate. Quirino Felipe, thank you. Antonio, sorry if I messed up that name, I apologize. Shekhar, thank you. Maji Bod, don't worry about looks, my friend. It's got nothing to do with looks when it comes to energy. The energy is abounding. And Kamil talking about America on a downhill flight, and there's a lot of things that are going on with America that are not good. But there are some good things that are changing, and this retention movement that we're leading along with MGTOW and the other things are good things for men to become men again. All right, so at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, let's talk about the topic. We're going to go back to Matt a little bit, and I promise I do this one. So I'm going to go back and talk about this one a little bit. Let's talk about the Whirling Dervishes. So the Whirling Dervishes under semen retention. Now, what does that mean? All right, so remember yesterday when we talked about the 5 exercises plus the 6th one, which is actually retention and transmutation, that was talking about spinning. And I know Claude asked the question about it as well, and maybe I wasn't totally clear in looking at the book and talking about it while I was trying to exercise at the same time. But what you're doing is you're rotating from left to right, which means you're going to go clockwise, so like a clock. Now, I realize a lot of younger people, they don't really look at a clock the same way it's digital now. But in the old days, we had a clock that went, around. And so the hands of the clock called clockwise, and that's basically going from left to right, the hands of the clock. That's the same thing you'd spin. Now, you have to have breathing while you're spinning, but you're spinning around. Now, in the exercises that the Tibetan monks did and the Fountain of Youth book that was focused on here, they only talked about doing 21. Now, the reason for that is because a lot of times people struggle, especially in the Western world, they struggle with their minds being able to kind of handle all the spinning. But the whole idea of spinning is something that really goes back a long way. It goes back to Sufism and the Sufis and all those type of things, talking about how the people who did this over a period of time and do this, focusing on getting divine with God, closer to God. And obviously that's one of my goals overall in all the things we're doing, is trying to get closer to my Creator. So as you look at this, the whole idea of spinning around is supposed to kind of generate the chakras in your mind. The chakras all come through down the body, and that kind of is focusing on how we're able then to be limber and young, and also keeping our reproductive system together all this time, because the chakras are listed, seven of them, right down the middle of the body, and one is up in the top of the head. And as you're spinning, that's going to keep that chakra moving. Now, the Whirling Dervishes come into play, when you're doing it over a period of time. Now, most of us can do 21 of them. We can maybe do 10 of them, 15 of them. We're only doing them for a couple minutes. But as time goes on and you're practicing more, your mind gets used to it, and all of a sudden your head gets used to it, and you can do as many as you can do at a period of time. I am now up to 75 at a time. Now, I don't do it every day, but there's times when I say, okay, I want to do more than just 21. 21 is only needed to kind of get that chakra moving and rotating. And the reason, again, in the philosophy we're talking about here, is as chakras keep moving within that middle of your system, that's going to keep you moving. When you get older, a lot of people allow those chakras to die down. And so as those die down, that in theory is where you end up getting older and eventually passing away. So obviously, the longer you can keep those chakras moving, the more you can delay that aging process to some level. And that's why when you see people who do this, you see them looking pretty young. Take, for example, a ballet dancer. A ballet dancer is allowing you, when you see a ballet dancer, a lot of them look very young, especially if they're doing spins and all the type of things that do all the time and practicing, they're looking younger. Now, the exercises that we went over yesterday are really kind of put together in a way to cover all those chakras, and especially that sixth one, in which you're transmuting energy upwards, especially when you feel a sexual energy coming out. But the Whirling Dervishes will go for hours doing this, because they practice this a long period of time. And if you practice doing it over and over a period of time, you can do it. I've done up to 100, 200 at a time, and I can tell you that it's not easy to do. And once you do it, you could feel dizzy, which is what happens to a lot of people. And obviously, doctors will recommend as you get older, do them slowly. And this is why I always recommend the exercises, and what Kelder recommends in the book is actually as you get past the age of 50 and you start doing them. Not for you young guys, but if you get people over 50 doing them, then do them slowly. Try to do one or two the first week, and then go to 3 or 4. Keep building yourself up. And you only need to get 21 really kind of get the effects of the chakras. However, I like doing a lot of them because it does give me that kind of spiritual energy, that fix, to be able to kind of rise to a whole different level. And this is what happens to a lot of those Sophies and the people, the priests that are doing these type of things. They're going ahead and kind of getting that closer to God type of thing. Now, I think certainly as you do this, you have to kind of decide how far you want to go with this type of thing. But the Whirling Dervishes, I think, are an example, and this is where the word comes from, is that they just go round and around and around, and they keep going. Now, we think of it like a top in our example in the Western world, but the Whirling Dervishes are very, very popular and important when it comes to the idea of trying to get closer and divine to your Creator. And I believe that it's part of the picture. So as I've done these exercises since 1998, I can tell you that I feel very strong about this, and I feel it's very important to be able to use that, number one, the rotation and the spinning as a start of the process. And then obviously the other ones also kind of fit into the other types of parts of your chakras that can do it as well. But the Whirling Dervishes are an important aspect of this, and I think there is some truth to the fact that it gets you closer to that spiritual side, but all the other ones do as well. And I think it's important to kind of recognize that. So I don't necessarily know, I'm not going to become a Whirling Dervish. I think it's certainly a thing that as you do a lot of them, you'll see a benefit from that. I believe I get more clearer as I do more of them, even though it seems like at the time you're kind of going crazy, spinning and spinning and spinning, 100 times, 200 times you're doing them. But remember, they're going for hours, and so they feel a whole different thing. I've not been doing it more than 5 minutes. So for me to go hours, that's a tremendous ability. So I may try that at some point. I don't know. We'll have to kind of see. I think as I go longer in my retention, which I think is at like almost 1,100 days, pretty close to it, or maybe 10,090 or something like that, I may get to the point where I feel like, okay, I'm going to try this, because I think it's something that is admirable for a lot of the Whirling Dervishes to do. And we go back to, I think Matt was the one that suggested it. But I think the idea was to try to look at the whole idea of retention and also building the chakras. So what you're doing is you're building those chakras, you're keeping them moving. And again, the philosophy is, going back to Kelder's book again, is the fact that all 6 of the exercises, and I'm including the sexual transmutation one as well, all 6 of those exercises really go on the premise that you have inside of you all the energy you need for healing, to make yourself the strongest superhuman person you can be. And you can become superhuman. But the idea of that is you have to try to use that energy in ways that you're not, in a positive way, you're not dissipating that out. And that's through the emotional type of stress you could feel. But certainly also the big one is actually the physical. And by releasing, you're killing yourself, and by obviously having intercourse with women and being able to do it. And the ironic part about this, and I saw this with several people talking about this over the last couple of days, the ironic part about this is you're going to get unbelievable amounts of attraction, women touching you, which brushing by you, they're talking to you, giggling, all kinds of stuff. But in order for you to keep that level of superhuman nature, you got to stay the course. And you can't go ahead and have sex with all these women. That's the ironic part of this, right? You've got to keep that distance because that's the power you have. And certainly, if you're a man in your 20s and 30s and you want to date, I would recommend, there's no reason why you can't be intimate and hugging and kissing and all that kind of stuff, but certainly wait to the right moment and find the right person. Now, I know that a lot of people, especially in the MGTOW movement, and people are against marriage, but I go back to the Bible, something I believe in very strongly. I think there is a reason to get married at times, and I think certainly when you find that right type of person you want to have children with, I think that's an appropriate type of thing to have. And I know a lot of men with the legal system we have and things are down with it. I understand why, but again, you're weighing things back and forth. And if you're a person with strong types of natures, when you're a strong type of masculine man, I think you can make the right kind of choice. And you're not going to fall in those type of situations, in those type of situations, especially when you can control yourself. And I think certainly controlling yourself makes a big difference. And I certainly would get to know the person longer. And I'm going to go back to the old days that I followed myself, Don't end up, find out about the person you're going to marry. This is my suggestion to warriors. Find out about the person you're going to marry, and don't just jump into bed with that person. Find out about that person, spend some time finding out whether the person is going to help you with your goals, you're a match with that person. Do all those type of things first, and then as time goes on, after you get married to that person, or if you decide otherwise, but you got to be careful with that part of it as well, that you're that you know this person well enough that you can procreate. And I think that's important. Obviously, my preference is obviously getting married, but I know a lot of people nowadays are not doing that. But the idea still is, don't be just jumping into bed, and certainly do not release unless you know for sure this is the kind of person you want to do with that. And I think it makes it very special for you, and obviously for the other person as well. But and a great example, I think Whirling Dervishes are great, something to look to maybe one day do, and I will try to do that, at least try to build up my time where maybe I'm doing 10 minutes of it, or kind of focusing on, I just can't believe doing an hour of it. That's a lot of spinning. But certainly that may be something I want to try one day myself. All right, my friends, long one today, but I wanted to kind of get some of this out and talk about some things. Tomorrow we'll kind of try to do, we may kind of do a couple of different ones. I got to think about which one I'm going to do tomorrow. But anyway, until next time, my friends, and thank you, Matt, for your your great topic here. Until next time, my friends, 2 things I always say. First, every day is a new day to a great warrior. And number 2, guys, we know we're in a battle. We got to continue battling. And so we got to always make sure that we always remember to battle